One of the most common protocols we're going to see is HTTP. HTTP is for hosting websites. We would see this on an external scan. We could see it on an internal scan. Websites are a big part of the internet. So anything connecting to the internet, networks, websites are going to be a big part of it. There are so many programs, so many ways that you can build a site, so many languages, that there's just a plethora of possible vulnerabilities. As an attacker, if we see that there's a website being hosted, that's like knowing that there's an unguarded backdoor, that there's going to be some way of getting in there. So let's dive in and see what that actually looks like. We've been given an IP address. So we'll run a simple Nmap scan against it. And we see port 80 is open. We also see 135, 139, and 445. Let's run a couple extras on this machine. But port 80 is open. Port 80 for HTTP. When I see that, I want to open up a web browser. And a lot of people will say there's a lot you can do before you get to a web browser. But I think there's a lot you can learn just from going there. Webgoat.net. So Webgoat is a purposefully vulnerable application website built by OWASP. See it over here. And it's great for teaching, it's great for training, it's great for learning. Let's see what we learned from our scan. Running Microsoft IIS HTTP D10.0. We've got Microsoft running. There's a MySQL. That's interesting. We'll come back to that later. Fingerprint scan. Came back no exact matches. We got Windows. Going with Windows. It's IIS. On port 80. That's a dead giveaway. So it's neat. It's helpful. What else can we learn from this? There's a couple extra scans that we can do. So let's run a whatweb. And that's going to reach out and find some information about our server. Again, Microsoft IIS 10.0. No real change there. Looks like there's no cross-site scripting protection. When you run a program like whatweb, it's running a bunch of scripts, and it will. Some of them are going to be to test and see if there's vulnerabilities. It's kind of nice. Another tool that we've got is HTTP or HTTP. The command is just HTTP, and it will reach out. You can see here, it just sends a HTTP request. You got a 302 found, and this is where we find out what our server is. That's a Microsoft IIS 10.0. This is all the header information that came back. And then it just says that the object was moved to, and then an anchor with an href of default.aspx. That's another dead giveaway. Microsoft IIS utilizes the ASPX file type. So that's just good confirmation of what we are working against. Another tool, Derb, will enumerate for us quite a bit. You got to give it a URL, not just an IP address. So it's going to run against this default word list, the Derb word list with common.txt. And what it's looking for is directories. So we saw the default.aspx is where we were getting sent to when we connect to just the IP address. And in here, there is content. That's one it tried. We are forbidden. Try downloads. See some of these things that derb is popping out. We'll wait until it finishes the scan, truthfully, because it's going to go through 4,600 words. But what it's doing is it's sending a GET request to the full URL to see if it gets back anything. Since it found these top level folders, now it's looking for subdirectories. And we'll probably continue to get 403s, but a 403 means it might actually be there. So this is basic enumeration. One other tool that we have is BrowseSH. And it will do website enumeration based on a URL. In your command line. So it looks a lot like what you would see in the browser, and it can be quite useful if you have BrowseSH on a machine if you don't have anything more than command line, because you could see its best guess at rendering the website. Oh, that made it worse. And you can see derb will run for quite a while. But we would let it run, we would mark down all of the directories and see if we have access to anything. And that is our basic enumeration. Again, this is a website running on a Microsoft server, because it's running Microsoft IIS server. You can feel free to let your scan continue, see what directories, subdirectories you find, but we're going to move on to the next lesson.